Low performance exhaust installation video for systems with spacer bracket. Installer must watch this entire video before installation. Do not tighten the exhaust system until aligned as instructed. The exhaust pipes have to be aligned and parallel. The back pipe only has to be 3 mm or 1/8 of an inch from the clutch cover. The gap between the two exhaust pipes has to be even. Look at the exhaust from all different angles, from the front, side on and above, to make sure your pipes are aligned as shown in these photos. Do not idle or rev engine for long periods of time or in unventilated conditions while the bike is stationary. Tighten all nuts and bolts again after the first test ride and again after the second ride, then periodically when servicing. Tune engine within 8 weeks after installation. We strongly recommend a dyno specialist. Warranty is void if instructions are not followed correctly. With DYNA models, a small head dipstick is required and the flexible nozzle for all changes. Your kit includes long and short exhaust pipes and heat shields, heat shield clamps, exhaust flange gaskets, a support bracket and bolt, a support bracket spacer, crush washers, and depending on which model you have, front pipe angled adapters, bung plugs, and reducers. When you're commencing, lay a drop sheet or towels at the base of your motorbike. Remove your existing exhaust system. Use some lubricant on the exhaust port studs. Remove your existing flange gaskets and insert the flange gaskets provided. Make sure you remove any debris from the port. Wipe clean. Insert the new flange gaskets. Tap them into place if needed. And make sure they run flush up against the port. Use your existing flange and C-clips or purchase new. When installing the C-clip onto the flange, just make sure that it is correctly inserted in the flange groove. Make sure it doesn't pop out when installing. Your kit comes with bungs, reducers, O2 sensors and angled sensor adapters. The smaller rear pipe, if you have a carburetor model motorbike, put the crush washers onto the bung plugs and just screw in. If you have 18 mm O2 sensors, replace the crush washer and that'll just screw into the rear small pipe. If you have 12 mm O2 sensors, install the reducer first and screw the O2 sensor into the reducer. Use your existing crush washer. Tighten firmly and recheck after installation. Place a small amount of lubricant on the O2 sensor thread, not the sensor itself. Turn the cable anti-clockwise enough times that when you screw it in, the cable will be even and straight. On 18 mm O2 sensors, screw into the pipe and tighten firmly. Be careful that the C-clip does not pop out when installing the pipes onto the exhaust ports. Place the exhaust pipe onto the port, put the stud nuts on and just hand tight. Use the protector cover provided and place onto the motorbike protect exhaust pipe. Hand tighten. We want this pipe to remain loose. The end result when the pipe is tightened is that we need to run the flange parallel with the exhaust port. Both flanges need to be the same. With some models you'll have to extend the front O2 sensor cable. This will unclip down the bottom, just pull it out so it'll reach the O2 sensor and then we can cable tie it to the frame later. If you have a carburetor model, just use the bung plugs again and screw it into the front pipe. If your system was supplied with a 90-degree front pipe oxygen sensor adapter, it'll come also with reducers. Just place it onto the front pipe and use reducers if you're using 12 mm O2 sensors. With 18 mm O2 sensors, use the crush washer supply. If you're running 12 mm, use your existing crush washers. If your kit was supplied with a 45-degree angled front pipe adapter, it'll also come with reducers, so once again for 18mm and 12mm O2 sensors. You want the angled adapter to miss the front oil filter when the O2 sensor is screwed in. Have the adapter loose on the front pipe, enough so that you can move it around. Put the front pipe on and adjust the 45-degree adapter so it's in position. Remove the pipe, then tighten the lock nut on the adapter firmly. Put a small amount of lubricant on the sensor thread. Wind the O2 cable anti-clockwise, then screw it onto the adapter. With 18mm O2 sensors, use our crush washers. If you're using a reducer with 12mm O2 sensors, use your existing crush washer. Tighten firmly. Be careful that the C-clip does not pop out when installing the pipes onto the exhaust ports. Use the protector cover provided and place onto the motorbike protect exhaust pipe. Mount the front pipe onto the exhaust port, hand tighten the stud nuts. Make sure your O2 sensor is missing the oil filter. Don't over tighten, we want to move this pipe around. Hand tighten the pipes only, we want to move it around. The end result is we want to have the flanges parallel or flush to the exhaust port. Hand tighten all the exhausts evenly. Remember, we want to move them around to get them in the right position for final tightening. Okay, now we're going to put on the support bracket spacer. This attaches the two pipes together. It'll go between the support housing underneath the pipes. This is what it's going to look like. We don't really want to tighten all this up because it's going to be loosened up with final adjustment and final alignment of the pipes. With the hex bolt provided, place your spring washer and flash washer onto it, put it through the spacer, and we're going to attach this to the back pipe. Hand tighten only, we want to move it around final positioning. With a sunken hex bolt provided, place it through the front pipe, through the spacer, put the spring washer and flat washer on it, and attach the nut. Hand tighten only because this is going to come off when we put the support bracket on. What we're doing now is simply aligning the pipes. Okay, so move it around, get it in position. This is what you want your pipes to look like at the end. Even gap between the two pipes. Attaching the support bracket. This is what the final result's going to be like. It's going to attach from the gearbox to the support bracket spacer. Choose your right gearbox bolt where your support bracket's going to attach. Some M8 models you'll be using the rear bolt, and with Evo and Big Twin and other M8 models you'll be using the front bolt. The 30-degree angled end goes to your gearbox, the 90-degree angled end goes to your exhaust pipes. Attach your support bracket to the gearbox bolt, hand tight only. We want to move this around. Your support bracket swivels 360 degrees. Undo the lock nuts on the support bracket turnbuckle. Undo the front bolt going through your front pipe. Attach the support bracket to the spacer. Put your front bolt through the spacer and through your support bracket. Put the nut back on. Make sure you got your spring washer and flat washer as well. Hand tighten only at this stage. When you have your alignment right, tighten up the gearbox bolt. Now tighten up all the nuts and bolts on your support bracket and support spacer. Put the additional nut onto the front bolt to lock it in. Adjust your support bracket so that the back pipe is only 3mm or 1/8 of an inch from the clutch cover. Okay, making sure that all the pipes are aligned correctly, all the gaps are right, all the spaces are correct, you got your flanges correctly on your ports, tighten up all the nuts and bolts evenly, so you go from one side to the other. You might notice as you tighten the port bolts, the even gap in between your pipes might change. Tighten each individual exhaust port nut so that it brings the gap in between the pipes even again. This is really important. We don't want the support bracket to put too much inward or outward pressure on the exhaust pipes. The support bracket there is simply to support. Once everything is tight and aligned correctly, lock the nuts on the support bracket turnbuckle. Clean the pipes because we're going to put the shields on next, so you want all underneath the shields to be clean of oil and prints and markings. You're now going to put on your heat shields with your 5 heat shield clamps. Make sure you use a socket driver, not a screwdriver. Your heat shields need to be mounted correctly. The 4 holes on your front heat shield need to be at the bottom, and the blow logo on your back shield needs also to be at the bottom. Place the shields onto the exhaust pipes, then have a look at the clamps and see which is going to be the easiest way to get to them. That's the way it's got to face. Clamps have got to go into your shields so they're accessible when you're tightening them up. Clamp access will depend on different bike models, so make sure your 5 clamps are going to be accessible when you're tightening them up. If you've got ceramic matte black exhaust pipes, just put some paper down over the exhaust pipe, and as you spread out the clamps to put the shield on, it won't mark them. When you put the heat shields on, have them loose because we want to make sure that the gaps are right behind the shields, they're put on evenly, and that they cover the joins from the step. Make sure the gaps are even behind the shield. Have the bottom of the heat shields even as to cover the welds. Firmly tighten the clamps. Baffle installation. Our Pro baffles are non-directional, they can go in either way. Our standard baffles are directional. The 4 holes have got to be placed into the pipe, the smooth side faces outwards. Line up the holes on the baffle with the holes in the pipe. Put your flat washer on, then your spring washer, then screw into the baffle. Tighten firmly. If your Pro baffles are tight getting into the pipe, with a file just smoothing off some of the edges along the sides. It won't take much so that it slides all the way into the pipe. If your system has copper heat shields, do not wash with detergent or use polish. The shields are covered with Everbright Protector Clear to prevent them from tarnishing. Please follow our instructions on maintenance, cleaning and care of copper heat shields. With showroom chrome or ceramic matte black heat shields, you can clean as normal. Okay, your pipes should be perfectly aligned. Depending on which model will depend on how much gap is between the pipes, but basically it all should be even all the way along. Time for your test ride. So start your engine, make sure there is no exhaust leaks, everything looks right. Don't rev it, don't let it idle for long periods of time in an unventilated room or while the bike is stationary. Your test ride should be 10 minutes, that's all, just let the engine get to operating temperature. When you're back and the bike cools down, retighten all the nuts and bolts again. Do this again after the second ride, then check periodically when servicing. We strongly recommend having your bike dyno tuned by a professional. No 2 engines are the same, we don't provide mapping for that specific reason. Find yourself a good bike builder or a great dyno tuner in your area and let him individually tune these exhausts to your engine. Having a high performance or a sports air cleaner will optimize the performance of these exhausts. Thanks for your support. If not too much trouble, give us a review on our Facebook page. Ride safe.